Pro Wrestling Illustrated viewers. This is a wonderful episode of Face Turn with Candace Cordelia that I'm so excited to present to you. I mean, where do I begin? You've seen her on television, you've heard her voice, you've seen her in the ring. You may have actually even bought some of her jewelry. And now we are presenting a book that she has written called Threads of Triumph. It is wonderful. It's fantastic. And you all should pick up a copy as soon as you can. In fact, pre-order it because I think you're going to want this one. Without further introduction, McKenzie Mitchell, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are you, Candace? It's always so good to do an interview with you. I just have to say that first and foremost. You're so professional and so kind. So thank you for that. I appreciate the warm welcome.
You're welcome. I'm honored. I mean, I've been following your career as an in-ring announcer, backstage presenter, and now you have this awesome project, this book called Threads of Triumph. As a writer, especially, I have to congratulate you. I know how difficult it is to sit down and really process the beginnings of anything that you're writing, whether it's a book, an article, a short story. But this is a triumph, no pun intended. It's awesome. So thank you for being here. And your words mean everything. So I truly appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. Yes, Threads. As you said, being a writer, I never considered myself a writer. I did get a journalism degree, a broadcast journalism degree, where I would write. And I thought maybe when I was a kid, like I would write a story or I would maybe write a book one day, but I never knew that it would come to life. And it found its way in a perfect way, a seamless way, if you will, of fashion and professional wrestling all in one. You said it, you've been taking a look through the book itself to be able to kind of understand those stories and really find those connection points and why this conversation is so important. It's been missed for a long, long time of us talking about the costuming, the gear, those story arcs, and how fans are connecting to your presentation as a star. And that's something that I'm finally excited to get to bring this to light, to get to share those stories, give those inside baseball quotes and stories that have never been told before. So the book is only it's just a tipping point. It's only the beginning of what we're going to see of the fashion meets professional wrestling.
I agree with you. And I really love the fact that you are predominantly really intricately into presenting the importance of gear in wrestling. I myself, it's a topic that I've been treading a little bit. I presented a panel last year at South by Southwest,
Yes.
and we'll talk about some other things later because I have a feeling our paths are going to cross again and perhaps a collaboration in this respect.
Yes.
But I am so into this because it's important. It's extremely important. And the people that make the gear, I mean, they are doing hard work, sometimes 24/7, to make these wrestlers look as gorgeous as they do. And also performing in the ring. And there's a lot of elements that go into making gear for someone that's performing. You're sweating, you're doing all these moves, like it's a lot. So
Yes.
before we even get into that aspect, what led you to writing this passion project of yours?
So it's no secret that I didn't grow up as a fan of professional wrestling. I got into the industry in 2016 right out of college, and I knew nothing about professional wrestling, but I figured it out and would write my own stories and study on YouTube and watch tape, if you will, to understand characters and understand the story of professional wrestling. But something that always drew me to wrestling was the art of fashion and how people were showing up in their presentation and how different stories were connected through a visual appearance, a visual art, if you will. If you're a heel or a baby face, what are you wearing? How are your designs different than the next person? And so I would always love at WrestleManias and Royal Rumbles how people would debut brand new gear and how it would immediately tell that story or continue their story. And that was something that I thought, man, this is so interesting and so unique that people aren't talking about it. So I had this idea for Threads. I want to say 6 years ago. I actually presented the idea to WWE in different forms and fashions. I said, why don't we do it as a YouTube series? Why don't we do it as a podcast? Why don't we do it as a full docuseries? Like, it's already being done. Why don't we just point a camera at it and shoot it and tell those stories and give this conversation light and people a different perspective? There was an interest at the time. And so at that point, when I was released in 2023, I said, you know what? I'm going to do this on my own. I'm going to prove that there is a demographic for it. There are people that care about the art of fashion and professional wrestling all in one, and it can coexist in the same space. So I created Threads with McKenzie Mitchell, which was my podcast. I produced it and funded it all myself just to kind of create that concept, to bring it out and to make it happen. Had some really great guests. And one of those guests was Natalya Neidhart. We talked about the Hart legacy, the Hart dynasty, the pink and the black, and having her dad's jackets, and Brett and Jim, and how all of that was created and how those moments have carried on such a legacy of her family. And Natalya was like, McKenzie, the way we did this interview, it was just so beautifully put together. You should write a book. And I'm like, Natty, what am I going to do writing a book with this concept? Like, what do you mean? So I wrote a 20-page book proposal, got a literary agent. We went on and pitched it to different companies, different publishers, and we got 4 offers in 2 weeks on the concept. And so I then was like, my idea isn't crazy. There's something here. There's something to be told. And so we ended up landing with Chronicle Books, and they are such a big champion of the world of professional wrestling. They create a lot of niche style books, a lot of giftable books, which is, again, a purpose of this book, is so that it's a gift for a friend or a family member, or it can relate to a wife and a husband that she just wants really pretty decor in her home and really doesn't care anything about wrestling, but he's like, no, this is such a cool book and this is why. So I wanted it to be a conversation for all wrestling fans of all ages, all walks of life, who are just starting to understand the industry or have no knowledge in the industry, or the wrestling fan who has followed specific wrestlers' careers forever, and really think they know it all but might not know it all.
So you're definitely bridging that gap between the wrestling fan and the non-wrestling fan, which is awesome, because we all know way too well, especially in the wrestling industry, that sometimes it's an uphill battle at certain points to really get people invested into wrestling, especially if they've never watched it. And I relate to you. I mean, growing up myself, I was not a wrestling fan, but the costuming drew me in. It's one of the elements in wrestling that drew me in. The makeup, the storylines, it just creates this throwaway for you actually getting involved in what's happening in the ring. So I love this journey that you're on, and the fact that you are a vanguard in getting folks interested in what these wrestlers are wearing. Talk to us about the actual process, the laborious process of writing a book, much less a book about wrestling gear, because I can only imagine it's a lot.
I just said this to somebody last night. I got a broadcast degree with a minor in psychology, and I thought, how in the world will this become a career, or how do they coexist? And I'm like, am I the female Dr. Phil? I don't know. And then I'm like, no, you know what? This makes so much sense. So a lot of the book really kind of breaks down the connective tissue, and it really kind of explains in a deeper way, using some clothing terms, using some sewing terms, but also kind of, if we go back to giving an example of like Gorgeous George, how Gorgeous George, back in the day, he was creating this blueprint for so many stars to come, the Seth Rollins of what you're seeing today, or even before then, like there's so many connective pieces that go back, and it was the lace, it's the tulle, it's the makeup, it's the colors, it's all of those pieces. As a fan who's ringside, you're getting to understand, and you're watching them and you're going, oh, they look cool, whomever it may be. That's my favorite guy. That's my favorite girl. And they look cool, but you don't know why. So that was a big connection point. A big goal of mine in this book was to create those moments and help better understand when people say they look cool, they're my favorite wrestler, but they don't know why. We can connect that to style points. We can connect that to perspective and how they're showing up, how they're presenting themselves as a larger than life superstar. So a lot of that connective tissue was my goal in that, to be able to write those pieces that made sense to casual fans, but to fans that have been a fan forever and just now are finding these aha moments. And so for me, that was a big goal in it, but also telling the life, some of these people, their life work was in professional wrestling. They were Hall of Famers, or they have passed on and their families kind of carrying on that legacy. I wanted to do their life work justice and be able to explain that in a page or 2 pages and in a concise way that made sense for their career. not in the moves, not in the analytical side of things, not what they're doing in the ring, but that presentation aspect of showing up on your television screen on a weekly basis or in an arena. How were they connecting? That was a big part of that. And it was a challenge to create those moments and create those stories that made sense and really help define their careers. I am a very type B person, but I'm also a type A person. So to be able to create that and sit down and write this book, I was writing on a plane. I was writing in this store in which you see me in now in Nashville, Tennessee. I was writing at home. I was at my family's house, my great grandmother's. Like I was everywhere. Took a lot of time, a lot of effort, but I'm very happy with how the work came out in its entirety.
You should, because it's amazing. And also, I'm assuming you're proud of all the people that you were able to interview and get quotes from. A lot of legends, past, present, and future. And one of those legends, Mercedes Mone, wrote the foreword for your book. I mean, when you presented the option or presented this idea to her, what did she say? Was she immediately like, count me in? Was it a bit of a wrangling process? Because everyone's busy, especially.
Yes, everyone is busy. And she immediately responded to me and said, I would love this. I think there's something so special about this book being written by a female. And I also wanted to have another female write my foreword. I just thought that was even more special to the book and to what we're talking about. And so I thought, I originally toyed around with some different ideas. Chris Jericho came to mind, Bianca Belair came to mind, but Mercedes Mone has had so many evolutions in her career, from the Sasha Banks days to where she is today in AEW and in Japan, and doing all of her cool creative ideas. They're so unique. And so I just thought, who would be better? Like, it would just be such an honor to have her being part of it. And so it was a seamless process to be able to reach out to her. She said yes. She wrote the foreword within a couple days, which also told me she was super excited about the project. And so it was great. Like, I'm very thankful. She's been very supportive this entire time. People have even started reaching out saying, how can we get a signed copy I want you and Mercedes' signature on this. So I'm hopeful that we can do something in the future.
I love it. I mean, I have chills because Mercedes Mone, I mean, her fashion sense, both inside and outside of the ring, it's unparalleled. She has a very distinct way in presenting herself and presenting the gear that she wears, but also a distinct style that she wears outside of the ring. We've seen her at fashion shows and on the red carpet. I mean, her style is unique and it's all hers. Yep. Was there anything that you learned about any of the wrestlers that you interviewed, or any of the wrestlers in which you did research on, that you had no idea about when it came to how their gear was implemented in their career?
Oh, 100%. In almost everyone I interviewed, there was a story that I learned something new. And that was so fulfilling for me as well. I interviewed Shawn Michaels, which he's a legend. I mean, that's something that is Shawn Michaels iconic. It goes hand in hand. We all know that. But hearing from Shawn Michaels himself that people had never asked him specific questions, in all the interviews that Shawn Michaels has done over the years, I was able to pull out brand new content, brand new conversations, which is like, how are these conversations have they not been had yet when we're talking about the gear aspect? And so we learn in every feature really something new, something brand new, and how those stories are told. I don't want to give too much away. I want people to create their own moments when they're reading the books and they're able to flip through and learn stories on their favorites. But yes, so many features, I learned brand new information. And I thought, again, this is what this story is about. This is what Threads of Triumph was designed to be.
Was there anyone in writing this book in which you may not have been too much of a fan of their gear before, but then became a fan as you started really diving into the history of the gear that they wear and what it represents, and perhaps the history that it now represents that perhaps we didn't even know until coming upon the information in your book?
Yeah, I think there's a couple people, right? I think I mentioned Shawn Michaels. I think that Shawn Michaels is something that we think we know everything about Shawn Michaels because his story's been told time and time again, but being able to divulge information that has never been told before was really cool. That was like, again, an aha moment. And I think Another person I really loved understanding his backstory is Mick Foley, because we know the stories of Mick Foley. He's hardcore, right? Like, and he's really one of the only people that had such distinct characters that were different, like three different variations of Mick Foley in what we saw when he was showing up on camera. So it was really interesting to hear from him and get to hear those stories. I just posted something online a couple days ago about his flannel that he wore.
Yeah.
And it goes back to when he was 13 years old and he was just wearing the flannel. It was as authentic as you can imagine, which then transpired into his later career and really told that story. It's a full circle moment. So those were like ideas and moments of the book that I'm like, well, yeah, it makes sense. It's genuine. They always say that the best characters are themselves, just turned with the volume turned all the way up. And a lot of that was really spoken, and a lot of that was divulged in those conversations that I got to have with these talent, with these legends, if you will.
I love that you mentioned Mick Foley, because immediately, and this I think goes across the board for fans and people who are maybe just casual, but they know Mick Foley,
Yes.
he's that type of icon, right? And that T-shirt, or rather the shirt, the flannel shirt, the images that conjures up, it's fascinating to me, because I had a conversation recently with a fashion designer about this in terms of what you think when you see a piece of clothing. And flannel can mean something different to so many people. For wrestling fans, Mick Foley. For someone that's like a Gen Xer that grew up in that time period, you're thinking Nirvana, you're thinking that time period, right? So I love the fact that clothing represents something special in different ways to people. And in particular, wrestling gear, I find, even more so now than ever before, it represents something, especially when you think of someone like Bianca Belair, for example, Rhea Ripley. Like it's you get a distinct image when you.
Yes, you do. 100%. And that's something, I mean, I created an entire jewelry brand out of the aspect of feeling like the headline. And that was something that, from myself being on camera for 10 years, I'm not a professional wrestler myself. I'm a host, but understanding when you feel good, you look good, right? Like how you're presenting yourself on camera. If, can you imagine a world where Mick Foley was wearing like a tutu and a blazer? Like it doesn't make sense, right? Like he naturally, instinctively, authentically was wearing this flannel because it's just what he wore. Like it wasn't just, a piece that he tried to make into his own. Like it was already his own. And so that was where like it was important to also tell those stories and understand that aspect of creating these custom pieces, jewelry, understanding what I like to wear and how I feel different as a performer whenever I'm showing up in something that I feel comfortable in. And I think that resonates really well with the wrestling community, with these professional wrestlers. They have to have the confidence to be able to go out there, whether it's a two-piece or whether it's a full singlet, to be able to perform their best week in, week out.
Yes. How would you say that your style has evolved? I mean, you mentioned you've been in this business for so long, and we've seen different iterations of your style, I would say. We've seen different, modes and moods, and you're always looking fantastic each and every time. But how would you say that McKenzie of 10 years ago, now McKenzie of now, how has your personal style evolved, especially being in this business and really trying to, I guess, just elevate each and every time you're on camera?
Sure. I think when I first came out of college, I understandably had no idea. I went to college in Mississippi. So it was like this, like, we kind of needed to be conservative and show no cleavage. And like, it was just, I was in the South. And then transitioning into wrestling, you can show a little bit more skin. And I was really only 21, 22 at the time, which is bizarre to think about those times. So I was still discovering who I was in those days, those early days of early TNA McKenzie. And so that was fun to kind of figure out. And sometimes I look back and I'm like, oh, why was I wearing that bandage dress? But then now we think about the bandage dress is coming back. Like what's old is new again, right? Like, then I go to WWE and I have some fun and like start to kind of create my own look. And then I become this reporter. Like I'm this like buttoned up, what you could see on CNN or Fox or whatever. Like some of these dresses were still a little bit like thicker fabric, more conservative again, but like more news oriented. And then NXT 2.0 kind of gave us a brand new light. And it was, what are you not wearing, what are you wearing to the club, but what are you wearing to relate to a Gen Z audience? Like, how are we telling that story? Because NXT 2.0 was younger, it was fresher, it was a brand new coat of paint. We saw it in even the transition from the yellow and the gold to the colorful paint. So it was, how are we kind of, in my brain, that's how I was going through it, was how am I modernizing McKenzie Mitchell? And that was fun to create that style moment. Two icons and two people I always look at are people that are celebrities or in the fashion industry or even musicians. I love Casey Musgraves. I've always loved her. She beats to her own drum, and she is still a Southern girl from Texas, but she has so much flair and the rhinestones and the glitz and the glam to it. Mixed with Dua Lipa, who pushes the boundaries all the time, and she does like something that's Prada and Balenciaga and it's designer, but it's this perfect blend of like, that's my goal of my style, is my inspo are those two celebrities. And so now I feel like I just kind of like to extend the limits and see what I can do and have fun. I love shopping at Akira. People ask me all the time, where do you get all your stuff? Akira is such an underrated company, and they're doing it so well. And so many of us are shopping there already. I'm like, we need sponsorship there. Hello. But I just like to have fun in my style. And somebody said to me the other night, I was here in my store. I had a fashion show to go to. I pulled something together from what we had here in the store. And they're like, I love it because it still feels very McKenzie coded. And I was like, what does that mean? But I'm like, and then I just started kind of thinking in my brain, it was very monochromatic, still had a cowboy boot. It was like a fun blazer, but it just felt different, but it was still very McKenzie coded.
What would you call your style? Like, do you have a name for it, or is that still?
I don't, but maybe call it like, I don't know, cowgirl chic or elevated cowgirl chic. Like, I'm not cowgirl, right? I'm not Western. I'm not wearing turquoise. I'm not Mickey James, like Mickey wears the turquoise and she's such a cowgirl at heart. Like, she's as authentic as they come. But I don't know. I like to mix a little bit of styles all together. And I think that style can change, whether it's streetwear one day and it's business casual the next. I always love to put on a blazer. I think it just buttons you up completely. So I don't know. That's a good thought. Maybe I'll have to find my own little shtick of what my style actually is.
Yes, I'm here for it. And let us know when you do. Let us know.
Point it as my own.
Exactly. You talk about your store. I'm of course focused on you, but by periphery, I'm seeing the clothing. The clothing is popping out behind you. Tell us about this store, because I'm so intrigued. I know you have your own jewelry line and you mentioned that, but Is this your own boutique? Is this a space of yours? Like, what's going on here?
It's a collective space for the most part. So I do all the jewelry. A lot of people don't know my family's been in fine jewelry for 75 years. I'm 4 generations of women in business, women in jewelry, which is super special. It's something that I'm very proud of, because I feel like in today's society, a lot of generations don't go 4 generations in their family business. It's a rarity more than it's more common. And so I always knew I wanted to do something with my jewelry. I just didn't know how. My family store in Missouri still survives today. My great-grandmother and great-grandfather created this small local jewelry store in my hometown, and it's still around. It's still been around. So when I was with the WWE, I wanted to create my own brand and figure out how to connect back to my family. I'm in Florida, they're in Missouri, and I created Headline, and that's kind of how everything was born. Fast forward, we're now 4 years in the business. My store here is in Nashville. My flagship store is in Nashville. I kind of like landed in this opportunity on music. I'm on Music Row, which is iconic in Nashville itself. And I kind of landed here. There was a designer that used to be in this space. He was here for 4 years. His name's Any Old Iron, Andrew Clancy. He's a fashion designer. His stuff is very sequins and loud and eclectic, really cool stuff. I've worn some of his things before, and they were looking to move down to Broadway. And he called me and said, hey, would you like to take on this space and start a brick and mortar? And I'm like, I live in Florida. You're calling me from Nashville. Like, how does that make sense? And I thought, you know what? I've got to take the opportunity. If it seems like it's going to work, let's just make it happen. So in about 30 days, we signed the contract, and I've been here since November of 2024. The vintage vendor behind me, his name is the Brother G. He and his wife Amber have been doing vintage here in Nashville for about 8 years. So he styles anybody from Jelly Roll and Bunny to Tucker Wetmore to Megan Maroney. So we have some really cool clients here in Nashville. I mean, of course, we're on Music Row, so we do a lot
Yeah.
of styling sessions. We work with a lot of stylists, a lot of celebrity figures, um, and just figure out what their personal style is. So it's almost like a cool space that you can. It's a one-stop shop. You can come in, get some cool jewelry, but also get some cool vintage clothing as well, and style yourself for shows and events and things here in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah. I love Nashville. I've only been there once. I need to go soon. The spirit, it's just as soon as you hit Broadway, it's just all around you. Live music blaring everywhere. And I'm sure it's such a fun time for you to be able to have your business there and to meet such cool people.
Yes.
I mean, when it comes to wrestlers, are you working with any wrestlers, especially when it comes to your jewelry line? Are you pulling things for them to wear in the ring and wear outside as well?
Every time I go to TNA, I end up coming out with more custom pieces that I'm working on, or either WWE talent are messaging me. It's such a blessing because I never thought that that would be where my career would go. I just thought I wanted to create this brand to carry on a legacy and also create pieces that I think are cool. Like the Drippin' necklace is my first necklace I ever designed. And then that was seen on Natalia and seen it's made on a Trick Williams action figure and it's been on Seth. Like it created a moment. It created this like story behind it. So I was like, I'm on to something. And then I've told the story about Seth and I and how we created the iconic Seth Rollins piece together. I had this idea to create a piece for him, designed for him. I messaged him before WrestleMania in 2024. So I want to say that was about in February and gave him some ideas. I gave him about 3 different concepts. We worked together on the details and the specifics and the stoning and all of that and all the specifics of how that would come together and created that relationship, which I'm beyond thankful for. And he debuted it on SmackDown, the SmackDown before WrestleMania in 2024. And it was such a cool moment to watch that come to life. And then since Seth has been like, this necklace has created my identity.
Wow.
I had somebody message me the other day saying that on his player on WWE 2K26, he's got that big necklace. And so it's really cool to watch all of these pieces come together and to develop these relationships and create these identities with people that are extensions of who they are as their characters. So yes, it's a snowball that started from Seth and then it grew and it went to Trick and then Roxanne Perez and Fallon Henley, Jeff Hardy, AJ Francis, Ariana Grace, like it is Trey Miguel. Like we are just creating this whole new chapter of what wrestling jewelry is because I think it didn't really exist. It was like just kind of an accessory and people would wear it occasionally, but it's part of their identity. It's part of their story. It's part of their gear. And people are starting to understand that and getting to be that go-to wrestling jewelry girl. It blends my world seamlessly, just like Threads does.
I feel like you're teasing us for the next project because that's a story that we've never heard of. And I know in entertainment, the only person that I'm familiar with jewelry wise, I think his name is Jacob the Jeweler. Excuse me. Okay. Yes, I think that's his name. In terms of well-known people that just focus on jewelry and entertainment, it's very few and far in between that we hear those stories. But wrestling jewelry, I have a feeling
concept. Yes,
it really is. And we don't think about, like you said, we really don't think about it that much, how the pieces create moments, but you're exactly right. Just as important as the gear itself.
And that's why I go back to the story of Seth and I of who would think, like, first of all, it's Seth Rollins, right? So it's like having him spearhead my brand, spearhead the pieces that we've created together, and just have this excitement behind it, saying that it's helped his identity. What do you mean? It's Seth Rollins. So it's like, those are the stories that I'm like, okay, we're on to something. We figured something out. And you see a lot of like celebrity figures and rappers and artists and whatever, they have these big chunky pieces, but you notice them. So a goal of mine in working with a lot of the professional wrestlers is how do we create these pieces where they make a statement, they stand out on stage, and it's accessible for them to design in different ways. Not everybody has to wear a Cuban chain with a pendant. There's ways that we can differentiate. And I really try to do that with everyone I work with, that it's just not a copy paste of a replica piece for Seth to Trick to Trey to whoever. I want it to be different and be able to feel like them and feel like their character.
I'm just so impressed. I'm so impressed. I'm all about creativity. I'm all about collaboration. I love that this is a lane that you've latched onto and that people are so invested in this. And we have to give a shout out to the folks who create the gear. There's so many of them behind the scenes that they, take a kernel of an idea and they run with it and they create such fantastic gear that just, you start to see them in places like WWE World where they have the exhibits and you're just like, wow, this is something that someone created from their mind, from an idea that someone has worn in the ring that will live on in wrestling history. What was it like getting quotes from those people? I mean, there's so many to name. And I also want to give out to a shout out to King Troy, because as a stylist, that's a whole other lane too, aside from making the wrestling gear. So what was that like, getting into their brains and really getting an understanding of the hard work that they do each and every day?
Sure. I also think a big part of the goal of this book was to create and give light to their conversations, to their side. There's two sides to every story. You see the character, but you don't hear what happens behind the scenes. And that was something that I really took investment in, that I wanted to make sure that they had a place and a platform to tell their stories as well. And every time, like, gosh, just getting into some people, when I started talking to them, like Terry Anderson, for example, who's been with the WWE for quite a while. She's on the road. She's on part of their staff. Some people, I would come to them with questions specifically about a specific talent. With Terry worked on stuff for Ric Flair, to The Undertaker, to China, to DX. Like, it was like, I was like, Terry, where do I begin? Right? You've had a handprint in so many different people's careers and their works and how they came to life. And I would be like, I would almost just ask her, like, well, did you work on so-and-so's career? And she'd be like, oh yeah, I worked on, let me tell you the story about, like, there were so many stories that came out that in itself was like, we could have talked for 3 hours just about stories. And that was awesome to me because, like I said, there's two sides to every story. You hear the stories about the Undertakers or the Bella Twins or Mae Young or whoever it is, but you don't know how much work and time and investment went behind it. There's a keen eye behind the scenes that's taking that vision and creating that vision and making that come to life. So it was an honor to be able to talk to so many of them, hear their stories, them feel comfortable enough to share their stories with me, share sketches and designs, to be able to find that excitement that I hope fans can really relate to in the book.
Sure. I mean, was there a story that, because I'm sure you were collating so much information in such a condensed period of time, was there a story that you wish actually made the book that you just didn't have room to include?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I had the honor of connecting to Michael Braun, who designed everything Macho Man Randy Savage. So Michael Braun was connected by Hulk Hogan to Macho Man Randy Savage. They connected. Hulk had said, there's this guy, you need to talk to this guy, when Randy was inquiring about gear. And Michael Braun came up. Michael Braun did everything Jimi Hendrix and Randy Savage. So everything you saw of Randy was all designed and conceptualized by Michael. Randy just didn't really, he didn't, it's not that he didn't care. He just didn't know how, he didn't have fashion sense. And Michael Braun will say that. Braun said he would make the outfits and then he would say, now Randy, wear this with this. And that's how it became.
Wow.
And so I had the opportunity to go to Braun's house and we sat down, and I think I have like literally 2.5 hours of footage of us talking about so many different things about Macho Man Randy Savage and the appeal and the designs and how it came to life and where he was getting fabric and the original story of the Slim Jim commercial and how that came to be. Like, that story, I don't think made the book, but I have that book. I have that story still recorded that I hope to create and have somewhere. Because yes, there was so much content and there was so much inside baseball, if you will,
Sure.
behind the scenes stories that are still to be told. That maybe that's slated for a volume 2. Maybe it's in my jewelry book down the road. Maybe it's a whole book on Macho Man Randy Savage itself. But yes, that was one particularly where we had so much content that we thought, how do we narrow it? But we have to make it only 3 or 4 pages.
Oh my goodness. And I'm sure, some things might be kept in the vault, but it has to feel so wonderful to have sat down with these incredible people and to just hear their stories. And I can imagine for them, it was so gratifying because, as we stated earlier, a lot of these stories no one knows, and perhaps they never had a chance to tell these stories until now. So all across the board, it's just amazing seeing this come to life and having it emblazoned in a book and in print forever.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a labor of love, and it's such a wild thing. I feel like a musician. I say that as I'm sitting here in Nashville, of musicians pour their heart out into albums and songs. And I feel very similar in this regard of pouring my heart out in this book and putting so much time and effort into it. And now it's like, okay, do you like it? Do you like it? Do you think it's cool? What do you think what do you like? What do you like about it? What do you don't like about it? It's a wild, very wild concept. Especially because the book's not about me. It's about everybody else. And that's something that has been very different as we prepare for the tour, as we prepare for events that we're doing. I want to create these conversations that are chats, that are intimate settings with other people, because again, the book's not a biography. It's not about me. It's about everybody else. And it's bringing light to a conversation. I've mentioned this, but I really hope it opens the doors for other conversations. A big point when I announced the book, a lot of fans and people commented underneath, like, finally a book for me, or finally we're having this conversation. I thought it would never be recognized. Somebody even said, maybe this opens the door for a CFDA award, like a fashion award, to be won by a professional wrestler, or a professional wrestler to get to go to the Met Gala. Like, that in itself is such that to me is so gratifying and fulfilling, because that's what this is about. That to me is, we're starting something here to see what we can do for the future, and globally recognize professional wrestling for where it deserves to be.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm trying to, it doesn't take much for me to imagine one of these wrestlers at the Met Gala, but in our lifetime, I really hope that happens. That would be so insane to just finally, but I think we're going to get there. I really think we're going to get there, because more and more people, especially in the mainstream, I'm noticing they're taking a look at the fashion and the gear and trying to get the story. So
yes,
we're on the precipice.
Exactly. And that was, again, in my pitch to the WWE, when I was first saying, like, hey guys, there is something there. I'm like, you watch an NFL game, you see on Sundays, and what is a big part of the game? It's the arrival shots. Yes. And you always think, ooh, what are they wearing? They're carrying their suitcase, they have their luggage, but it is like a fashion show every week in the NFL, NBA, NHL. Like, you're taking note of what these athletes are, because they're role models, they're examples, they're fashionistas, or they're spearheading fashion in their lane. And so I'm like, this is the proof. This is where it is. Why aren't we doing this in wrestling? Now we've seen some of that come to life in what they're doing on the NFL networks or ESPN or whatever, Sports Center. And you're seeing those same looks when people are showing up backstage at Raw, they're doing the arrival shots. So I was like, we should just take note of it now. So being able to watch it now, fast forward 6 years later, it's almost like a told you so. Like, we could have been doing this too. But I'm finally glad to see it done, also done in my own way, and creating this piece on my own, of threads coming to light.
Amen. It's going to happen. I know it. It's better late than never, but it's coming. It's coming. What does your family and your husband think about all of this, what you've created?
If you ask my husband, any event we go to, he just goes, I'm just the husband. And I'm like, he literally just, I'm just the husband. I'm like, no, honey, like, you're the voice of NXT on Tuesday night on the CW. Like, you have your own star power. You have your own place to shine. Like, yes. And he's doing well. And I'm so thrilled for what he's getting to do in his career at this moment. But Vic always just tells me, and I don't mean this to be mushy gushy, but he's just like, you're the most inspiring person I know, because I never thought that when I was fired in 2023 from the WWE, you get released and you go, what am I doing? What am I going to do? And you have that roller coaster. You have those emotions of the ups and downs and, oh gosh, what's next? And people would ask you, well, what are you doing now? Well, what are you doing now? And I think now I'm so proud to be able to look back. And I think my family is so proud and my husband is so proud to look back and go like, it was just a piece of the journey. And we're only getting started of what that is. Yes, I've been a broadcaster for 10 years, but there's so much more to my career and my purpose than just being a broadcaster, just being an interviewer or a ring announcer or a voice backstage. Being able to spearhead this new conversation like Threads is, it's a journey for me. And I think that to have their support and to have them along for the ride is just so meaningful to me as well.
That's so lovely. That really is. To have a supportive family and husband, you can't ask for more than that. And
Yes.
I also, on the heels of that, have to ask, do you have any moments where you style your husband? Has he come to you for that fashion advice?
That's a little bit of a well, let's just say yes is the easiest answer. But gosh, it's like when you're younger and like your mom tries to tell you to wear something and you're like, no, mom, that's not cool. I'm not wearing that, or whatever, or whomever it is, sister, mom, cousin. And you're like, no, I know better. That is my husband with me. And I finally got to say to him the other day, like, honey, I wrote an entire book about fashion and presentation and how you show up, you feel good, you look. What do you mean? I think I kind of know what I'm talking about. I think he's starting to come around, but good Lord, it's a struggle. I'm like, please just listen to me. It would make everyone's lives easier, but he tries. He's trying. We're going to get there.
You already know it's eventually going to be a thing, and then you're just going to sit there. You don't have to say I told you so. You're just going to be like, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Remember when I recommended those pants like literally 3 years ago, and then now it's your idea? Like, wonder where that came from. So small doses, baby steps.
Exactly, baby steps. But you're taking huge steps, McKenzie. And obviously, the next question for me to you is, what's next aside from the book tour? And I'm sure more books to come. What else do you have on your plate that we can look out for?
Oh man, we talked about it quite a bit, but my jewelry, I'm continuing to do fun collaborations, things that are so out of the box, so different. Working with a local fashion designer here in Nashville, to then also creating pieces for other wrestlers that we know and love, to working with some different artists and musicians. Like it's continuing to find its place, and I'm so happy for the success and so proud of where we've came from. So I'm trying to enjoy and continue to stay creative as I'm going through this journey. But yeah, I think first case with the book is just to enjoy the success and enjoy the hard work and what we're doing to get to this point. We've got a few events that we're going to announce pretty soon as we continue to promote what's going on. And then as I mentioned before we went on the air, before we started recording, I hope to take a month off. Like, I think I just need a vacation. And I hope to do that this summer, to just enjoy some time and really relish in everything that's happened with Threads, everything that's going on with Headline. And we're doing some more stuff in Florida with Headline as well. So I think it's exciting times, but I also have to remind myself that Rome wasn't built in a day. I need to make sure I'm relaxing and allocating all the things that I've got going on and asking for help as well. So exciting times, but I'm excited to see what's going on and what's happening next.
So delicious. And you raised two excellent points: taking time to rest and revel in your accomplishments, and asking for help. And I think that's, for some people, it's hard. I can relate to that, but it's important. You can't do it. I mean, you're doing so much and you're doing it all, but to ask for that help, nothing wrong with that.
That's right. And I've been blessed. I've been lucky. I have some great staff members here in Nashville. Vic has started to kind of step up and like go with me to pop-ups or help me make jewelry or help me with design process or even some marketing things behind the scenes. So who would know if you ever get a marketing email from Headline that it's coming from my husband? I don't know. But being able to exactly allocate those tasks is a big help in daily life in general, as a business owner and just as an individual.
Thank you so much, McKenzie. It's likewise. I know we chatted a little bit before we hit record, just as you said,
Yes.
but it's a pleasure. This is the second time we've had a conversation, and it's just so lovely seeing what you are accomplishing and knowing that even though a door might quote unquote close, it's the next entryway to a new chapter, a new beginning. And things happen for a reason. So I love that you've taken the reins and you're doing it. You're doing wonderful, amazing, beautiful things, and we're all so excited for you.
Well, thank you for taking the time and sharing in my success and my journey. And I'm so appreciative of the continued support. So thank you. I appreciate
You're
you.
welcome. You're welcome. Where can we buy your book, see what you're up to next, give us all of that amazing, juicy information for our
Yes. Yes. Threads of Triumph is available for pre-order everywhere at your favorite retailers, Amazon, Books A Million, Barnes & Noble. In my Instagram or any of my social platforms, there's a link in there that you can go and just shop the book early if you'd like to pre-order it. And then it will officially hit the shelves on April 7th worldwide, not just in the United States, but worldwide. That was something we really wanted to work on as well. So there's a retailer in Canada, a retailer in the UK, so they don't have to pay for international shipping, which was super important to me. So yes, the book will drop officially April 7th. And then, of course, you can find me on social media at McKenzie and Mitchell on all platforms.
Thank you so much. And everyone watching, if you see the ticker, follow McKenzie. Make sure to tune into PWI for more exclusive interviews. Thank you so much again, McKenzie. A joy always talking with you. Hopefully, we'll see each other maybe during WrestleMania.
Yes, maybe WrestleMania. We know it's so crazy. So fingers crossed, maybe our paths will cross. So
yes,
we will see. Yes.
But thank you. You're so welcome. And thank you all for watching this episode of Face Turn with Candace Cordelia, where you can catch exclusive interviews with your favorite wrestling personalities and wrestlers. Stay tuned for the next episode. And until then, take care and have a great one.